Hey, this is Matthew and welcome back to Nerd News Today. It's time for another wrestling figure review, and today we've got one that I've been hunting for so long, and I was very lucky to get this guy. At least that's what I thought when I first got him. That is the Pete Dunne figure from Mattel's Elite Series 75. So I missed out on the first Pete Dunne figure, and that was super hard to get. And up until fairly recently, this particular Pete Dunne was one of the really hard to find figures in this lineup. I've seen them on eBay going for anywhere to like 75 bucks or more. And then the COVID-19 outbreak happened, and scalpers got stuck at home more, and this figure became a lot easier to find. Of course, that's ironic, because I ended up actually buying this secondhand anyway from another collector who just happened to get it for me, so shout out to Jordan. But this is my Pete Dunne figure. So happy to get this guy, because I love Pete Dunne. He's one of my favorite guys on the roster right now. One of my favorite wrestlers, probably, period. And this looks to be a very strong figure of him. So let's talk about the packaging real quick. It's that typical contemporary elite style with the little diagonal cut here on the edge. On one side, we've got this nice portrait of Pete Dunne, who doesn't look very nice there. And on the other side here, we have more of a full body shot of Pete. And he's also wearing the exact outfit we're gonna be looking at today. So on the back, we have the lineup of who else joins him in this line, which, as I've said before, is a very strong lineup. A lot of great figures in this lineup. And I've got half them now, and I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up actually completing this entire wave, which I normally don't do. We also get a few stats here about Pete Dunne, which includes his birthplace, height, and weight, and a little sentence description about him. It's kind of amazing that they actually just have like one sentence to summarize everything about this particular figure's look, and that is talking about his 685-day-long UK title reign. And it also lets us know that this outfit was from his match against Walter. What's surprisingly not listed, though, is his finishing move, which kind of bugs me because look at all this nice blank space right here. The text of this packaging, I've noticed, has all been fairly big, and it's something I really haven't paid a lot of attention to in the past with figures, but in this case, there's so much empty space, and the back of the packaging, too, generally, if you're going to look at it, you're going to be looking at it pretty close. So there's no reason to really have font bigger than it needs to be, because if you're going to be, less than a foot away from it, which in most cases you will be, you're going to be looking at it tighter, text is going to look even bigger. So there's no reason, essentially, to make that text a little bit smaller to fit more stuff in there. But that's just my nitpicks, and it kind of bugs the heck out of me, because there's just so much more they could have said besides one sentence. But I'm not a mint on card collector, so let's go ahead and get this Brusierweight out of the box and into the ring. All right, and we are back now, and here is our Pete Dunne figure loose in the ring. And I set him up almost exactly the way that he looked in the packaging, because he basically pulled out the exact same way. And I think he just looks spectacular with that UK belt. And I guess that's going to be the first thing we talk about, because to be honest, that's also one of the reasons why I really wanted this figure. I wanted to get that UK championship. The UK title, up until this point, had only come with one other figure. That was one half of Mustache Mountain, Tyler Bate. And that was, I believe, also an exclusive figure. So he was a little hard to get, but at the end of the day, he also became a little bit easier to find because he was kind of plain looking. And really the only gimmick worth getting that toy for was the belt. And now, luckily, we've got Pete Dunne here, who's got a lot more gimmicks with this figure to look at besides the championship. But really, that belt looks so good like this, especially around his arm. The detail is great, the engraving is nice. Like, I'm a real belt fanatic, so I had to get this belt. It's also one of my favorite belt designs of the current era. And I'm happy it comes with Pete. Again, one of my favorites ever. So I actually want to see if it can go around his waist, see how that looks. And let's see if it actually does fit, because belts are always finicky. It's a really thick, big belt, so you gotta really find that sweet spot to attach it easily. All right, I think that's about as close as we're gonna get with it for now, because I don't want to spend all day playing with the belt, even though I would if I could. But that's to give you an idea how it looks around his waist, and it does look great. Really nice detail, great paint job. You can't beat a good championship belt, can you? No, you really can't. So aside from that belt, I feel like we're working backwards right now, but I guess I might as well keep going in that direction. Aside from that belt, he also comes with his entrance jacket, which I'm also showing to you exactly how it came out of the packaging. Because in the box, it is like this. It's got this little thing on it to help you keep the shape. And that's unusual. You don't really get that with a lot of the figures. And I kind of like it. Normally they're wearing their entrance gear, or it's kind of taped to the packaging if it's a soft good. This is one of those rare times where it's a rubber accessory that's not on the figure, and it comes with this little stand so you can present it better, and that's really cool. It also makes it really easy for me to show you guys the back of it as well. I love that look, but we're gonna put that stuff on him in a second, and I guess we'll talk about his other accessories at that point. But yeah, let's talk about Pete Dunne himself right now. Take the belt off him just for a little while. In terms of the sculpt, everything about it is great. I mean, you know, there's really not much you can do with a singlet, but it's his singlet. It's got his unique look to it, and it does look really great. I think the head sculpt is really where the action's at, though, and that is such a Pete Dunne face. Everything about it looks perfect. I love this Pete Dunne head sculpt. I also love the hair, how flowing it looks. Like, that's a great looking piece of hair. Really action-packed. Just again, spectacular detail. Loving the beard on his face as well. The paint job is very solid here. Good expression, a little neutral, but it still kind of says action to me. He's biting down on his mouthpiece, so clearly this is a wrestling version of him. Articulation is of course the same as all Elite figures. Head can go left to right, ball jointed shoulders. Look at that flex, look at that flex. You've got bicep swivel, got the elbows that can turn, wrists that can bend, the buck goes up and down and left to right. Oh wow. I feel like that split is almost bigger. Maybe I'm just biased because I like Pete Dunne so much, but you can see he's got some darn good flexibility here. Woo. We've also got ourselves the thigh swivel, double jointed knee, the boot articulation, and ankle swivel. And since we're talking about that knee, you got to mention, of course, that awesome tattoo he has on his knee, and they got that perfectly as well. I was actually concerned about that because I felt like some of that might get lost with the knee because of how it is in real life, but they really kept it just onto that joint. So kudos to Mattel. And as for the outfit itself, you know, it's just a black singlet. This is definitely a little bit plain, much more plain compared to what he had with his first, much harder to find release. But you know, it's got everything it needs to have on it. And really, with the fact that it has its entrance gear, I mean, you're gonna probably spend a lot more time just putting that on him. So let's do that right now, in fact, and I'll also show you the other accessory that he comes with, which is an additional set of hands. So we've got here one closed fist, one open hand. Well, the other hands are basically the adjoining missing hands. So you can have basically both hands as closed fists or both hands as open hands or any combination of the bunch. And in my opinion, I think all of the wrestling figures from Mattel should always come with, at the very least, those two sets of hands. So yeah, literally it's just a mirror of what we just had before. But let's go ahead and get the rubber entrance jacket on him and see how that looks, because that I'm very curious about. And as we've seen in the past, rubber goods sometimes can be difficult to get on the figures. I think this one is going to be one of those that will be a little problematic. It's got the thick shoulders. So we're going to actually live a little dangerously here. I'm going to actually pop the head off of him because I think that's going to be the easiest way to do this, because his hair, I can already tell you, is totally hindering that. So pray for Pete Dunne. Here we go. Okay, that was a fail. That head is on way too tight. We're going to just try doing it the other way around. Yeah, I thought that head would pop off. I think I'm going to probably need to heat it up or something to get it out of there. But yeah, I think we could probably still pull this off without having to do that. Let's see. Okay, I'm actually kind of standing by the fact that I should have popped his head off, because you can now see that hair was a bit of a problem to get that jacket onto him, but we eventually got it done, maybe at the cost of a little bit of his flexibility. But there you guys go. You can now see Pete Dunne in his entrance gear with the belt. And that does look pretty nice. Really like the jacket. And I gotta say, probably the one thing that's the weakest thing about this figure actually is that chest and how sunken it kind of looks, and how it kind of blends into the figure almost. Especially when you put the entrance gear on him. It really kind of highlights this like little caved in section of his chest. I don't like that. That part's a bit of a turn off for me. And as much as I hate to say it, you know, like I was planning on displaying him in the entrance jacket, I don't think it actually looks that much better with the jacket on. I actually think I'm gonna probably stick him with the jacket off on my display. So at the end of the day, you know, as I mentioned, most wrestling singlets are not the most exciting thing to look at anyway. I had hoped that this entrance gear would help make him pop a little bit more, but because it's the exact same color, it doesn't really do that much to differentiate him from anything else. You know, could Mattel have done anything differently with this? They could have maybe made this a different color, or a different tone of black, I should say, to help make it stand out a little bit. Because otherwise, everything kind of blends together right now. It's not just the fact that the cave has this kind of like smooth part right here. It's more the fact that just it's black on black on black on black. And that's pretty dull to look at, to be honest. It's basically a two-tone figure. It's his skin tone and black, and there's that one gold highlight on the back. Even with the belt, I mean, talk about it's like gold and black. Very two-tone, and I don't think it really looks that visually exciting here. And as a loose collector especially, I want that visual excitement to really make my figures stand out and look great. So, you know, at the end of the day, considering how hard it was to hunt for him, I am a little disappointed, but I'm also sure that there's going to be more figures of him down the line with other belts and who knows what other accessories he'll get. So, you know what, this is the first, I guess, more accessible release of Pete Dunne, and I'd still say it's worth getting, just because you're gonna have a hard time getting that initial one, and it's gonna still be at least another year away, maybe longer, before we get another version of Pete in elite form. So if you're a Pete Dunne fanatic like I am, I think it's still worth getting. It's just definitely not gonna be my favorite version of him ever, and I can tell you that already without even having seen future versions of his figures. So that's our review of the Elite Series 75 Pete Dunne. It's still a very strong wave, and it's still a very strong figure. It's just not the perfect or ideal Pete Dunne. There's gonna be better ones out there, but on the plus side, he's still fairly young in his career, and that means plenty more room for future action figures. So stay tuned, there's gonna be more. So until next time, I'm Matthew, this is Nerd News Today, and thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to see some other upcoming videos we've got soon that are pro wrestling related and more. And of course, all the other stuff that we do here on this channel. So once again, thank you for watching, and be safe out there.